Fair today. New place. This is a fabulous Matt's Wild Foods. He's out in East Troy. Matt, do you do winter markets?
I do. I will be at the Oak Creek Winter Market every Saturday at the Oak Creek Community Center. I believe it's on Howell Avenue. Yeah, it's a great indoor market. There's about 60 vendors there.
Do you know what time it opens, hon?
It opens at 9 and runs until 1 o'clock.
All right, so the people can find you there. Wonderful. Mushrooms look fresh and delicious. And you got motsies. Woohoo!
Next Thursday it is. Okay. What should I do?
Here we have a delightful death cap.
Amanita by Sporagera.
Thank you very much.
No, that was completely different. The Alpine Village was the Bouchel family. One
Got a
brother
yummy
had,
Emmentaler.
it's still there.
and smoked
Walter
Gouda cheese
Bouchel,
sauce.
and then Gene was the Julio Ed.
Phyllo stuff with chicken pork
Michelle
belly.
came from Liechtenstein. And their father was the chef.
Heavy cream, lime.
Who studied under a Scalfier.
Little crispy onions
Yeah, that was a really unique place.
on top to garnish.
I worked there. We had a 3,000 gallon rainbow
Premium.
inside the restaurant.
Got that earthy
They would come like once
mushroom flavor,
every
creamy
6
cheese,
weeks.
crunchy onion,
Literally deliver rainbow
crispy
trout. That was my
dough.
job.
So good.
Kind of take care of that. When the order come in, you'd have to scoop them out of the water. I mean, it was
You know you want it, you know you do.
Tower. That's how my big meats. Yeah.
We're selling a lot.
So she didn't find out before you left?
No.
I was thinking of a craft. What do you say?
This is the honey place. There's
Yep, there's already
awesome
one in there.
mushroom
We can put another.
honey.
Yep.
No, that's all right.
I got that and then the recipe. I will do this.
Do you need like smaller bills?
Wisconsin Mycological Society. Get a t-shirt. Get it.
I like your Morel tattoo.
Thank you. Oh, yummy mushroom powders. This is a really cool thing. Look at these tiny little environments.
Should come through from Josephine. Perfect, I got it.
Yeah.
You think he's a bad guy,
Oh
but
my
maybe he's alright.
goodness.
That's the thing, you know, it's like,
That's amazing stuff. Look at these things here. Oh, cool. Hand-painted shirts.
Millions of bacteria lining the inside of this cup. And they become mature, and the spores get shot out. Yeah, Ascomycota is very cool, and this is some of the fastest things in nature right along with this, spores leaving a basidium. So a basidium is a club, is what that means. We can see this club shape, and we can see the spores being held on these 4 little prongs. And those ones get dispersed when they get slung off when a drop of water forms and then just poops them off. And those, you have to imagine on the gills of this mushroom, hanging down, sticking out, and then they're ready to go on those gills to get, and then probably dispersed into nuggets. Here's an Ascomycota that I just told you about. We have the spores, and now those asci, the ascus, the little sac with the spores in them that was before a cannon, is now just a little sac to bring those spores to maturity. But do you need to cannon yourself out there if you're just going to wait around to be attractive because you stink and then eaten? No, you don't need the cannon anymore. So eventually, over the course of evolution, they tend to just kind of go away. Same goes in a different way, the basidia. I don't show the actual kind of deformed basidia, but they exist to produce the spores, but they don't really have to do any of the dispersing anymore. And then for Mycora, it's really just like a nugget of spores. And the gleba, this is a term I could teach you for two different truffle terms. Gleba, G-L-E-B-A, is the internal spore-forming mass of a truffle. And they'll have little structures in there that are actually physically forming the spores, and there'll also be sterile tissue that's not forming spores, but just kind of holds the space. Maybe makes some of those attractive oat smells. Then there's something called the peridium, which is basically the whole skin forming the outside. And we can talk about the exoperidium, we could talk about the endoperidium, the outer, the inner, but we don't need to do that right now because we're not publishing. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Talking about the full diversity of truffles in Wisconsin. You would not want to eat this particular species, but a deer might. A deer really definitely would. So this is just going through some data that's on the kind of like clearinghouse holding of mycological species across the Midwest in Ascomycota. And this is a picture of it here. Very just kind of infolded, not really known as a culinary species, but very cool. Those are its spores. A lot of truffle spores have really interesting decoration or ornamentation. Basidiomycota, these are our Basidiomycota species that show up in the mycoportal data for Wisconsin specifically. And I'm going to show you a really beautiful photo of Melanogaster brumiatus that kind of can help us. Famous name? Gingerdemanii. Yep, they're naming them. It used to be called Indigon lactiflua, but now they moved it into this other genus, Gingerdemanii. And this is a Mycora truffle, so this is wild. This is related to like that little pinning mold on your strawberry, and yet here it is forming a truffle, and all the spores are in there. And one of my good friends and colleagues at UW La Crosse just dug up one of these, or we think that's what it is, in La Crosse under just some pine trees. It was photographed by our own Andrew Kitten right up front. Woo! This was seen in Texas Island Woods State Natural Area in Dane County. It was seen August 19th, 2018. Because a lot of these truffles tend to be related to ectomycorrhizal associations, the ectomycorrhizal season in Wisconsin, if you're familiar with it, is when you're going to find a lot of them maturing. So that's between July and late September, very broadly speaking.
So this is my attempt at a chanterelle.
I went in too hard, I think.
Okay, so everybody's making their prints, and I made my print, and now let's see it.
Ooh,
There it is. It's all right. There's some really nice things. Oh, now that's really nice. There's some really nice stuff going on.
It's a little sticky in the bottom. It's okay.
Matt will tell you that if we keep at that rate, we won't have a good idea of the biodiversity of fungi for another 1,000 years. So we have a massive knowledge gap that we need to address. A really good example, because oftentimes we see Amanita flaviconia and Amanita frostiana being misidentified as one another. And then furthermore, we have something called intra-species similarity, where Amanita frostiana, we have two specimens in that same species. And yeah, they look pretty darn similar, but if flaviconia looks as similar as it does, and then we get a specimen of frostiana that looks a little bit different, this can be really hard for us to understand what these species are and what their distributions are around the world. As Amanita muscaria, but it's still got this global distribution according to iNaturalist. We can ask the same questions. Is this actually all the specimens the same species? Is it truly native in all of these regions? And what we end up seeing is, there it is. I think I have natural on basically, these specimens, for the most part, actually all are the same species. But what took my advisor years and years to figure out is that the native range of this species is likely just in Europe, and it was introduced to the west coast of North America some years ago, has established and become highly indigenous shapes and sizes, and may actually not even be present. But this is a very common feature. The next being this universal veil. So this is an important feature because these mushrooms in their premature state start in what we call an egg. And so this universal veil material is the tissue that is basically the shell of the egg. And when this mushroom matures, it breaks out of this shell, but that material doesn't just evaporate usually. Sometimes it does dissolve, but sometimes it's left as this sac-like structure or even some warts or some collars on the base of the stem. The next feature that I will get to here in a second. The next feature is this partial veil, which is kind of like the universal veil. Again, it's tissue designed for the premature state of the fungus. And as the thing matures, it's deposited on the stem there. It basically releases from the cap edge, allowing those spores to disperse once they need to be dispersed. The next feature is the cap margin. This feature has, well, you get a lot of information about the different colors, right? So these are some common colors for Amanita that you see in Wisconsin. But also there's sometimes these lines, what we call striations, that move from the edge of the cap in, almost in this perpendicular-like fashion. And sometimes they're just lines, and sometimes there's actually a texture to them. And then again, sometimes it's not even there. The next feature, and the last one I use, is again this universal veil, but when it's deposited on the cap itself. This is what we often call the warts of the mushroom, right? But it can also be patches. It can be very frequent and prolific on the cap, or it can be not present at all again. And so using these 5 features are in cohort with one another is what will give us a good idea of if this is an Amanita or not. And then on top of that, it'll actually give us a good idea of where in the genus of Amanita this specimen belongs. Scientists have come to use because it gives us a good idea of how these things are related to each other based off of their genetic sequences. And we see here that Amanita is divided into 3 subgenera and 11 sections, right? So, and on top of that, 7 of the 11 sections are represented in this sample. And so this also shows you, right, I mean, that took a lot of effort, but it's also by no means conclusive, right? There's still plenty of work common. So we only found 2 specimens in this section where, we got this Amanita banningiana, really hard to find. It was actually collected by Wisconsin Mycological Society's very own Tavis Lynch, who was kind enough to share it with me because I actually went to this same trail that he did a few days ago, or a few days before he went, saw this mushroom, thought it was one I had collected a lot of, didn't collect it, and thankfully we have Tavis in this world that bailed me out. But it also goes to show, know your taxa, and when in doubt, just collect it. Just collect it. The next one we have was collected by Rowan Tress, who's my fantastic mentee, also here in the crowd today, cheering me on. This is an awesome specimen because it's really, really small. So hard to see, but when you find it, super rare, really beautiful little specimen. And then we'll move on to section Vaginati. This one is the most common in the sense that they're the most species-rich section in Amanita. Within this section, we can find rare species to common species, but oftentimes when you go out into the field, if you're finding Amanita, likely it's in this section. So the first species I have for you is Amanita spa, which just means that it has yet to be described. So it's potentially new specimen here found in a singular area in Wisconsin, the Brooklyn Wildlife Area, just south of Madison. And this is a very unique specimen for this section. It's really, really small, and it's blank white, which almost none of these fungi are in this section. And also the two times I've found it, they both had just one patch of universal veil material on the top there, which is kind of an interesting little quirk for them. As we keep moving, this is Amanita, really deadly poisonous death cap. These ones you just don't want to mess with. And they're often blank white and smell really, really bad. They've got this sickly sweet smell to them when they're fresh. And then if you go ahead and dry them to preserve them, you want to do that in a different room because it will stink up your entire place. This is the Amanita bisporidra, very common in this region, but it's often confused with some other specimens that we'll see in a sec. And the best way to identify this one is just that it's often got a very thin, long stem and a smaller cap diameter. Sub-Aliacea, which maybe you're Sub-Aliacea, bisporidra, that's a better one anyway. This one looks very, very similar, but often has a thicker stem, and it's hard to see, but it almost looks like fluffy on the stem. We call that flocose. And it's got, again, blank white, but some sort of, it has a little bit of a yellow hue, not as prominent as some other species though. Last two, so we have Amandella, very, very rare to find these. If you find these, good on you, definitely take notes of it. So they can be really small to big, but they're often stocky. And they've got this white, brown, they can be brown or white with brown staining on them. And the most apparent thing is their stem is really, really, again, like fluffy or flocose with a very prominent sac-like structure at the base. The same thing. This group is really understudied because of how uncommon they are. And again, we see that brown, and then the other thing I forgot to mention is that on the universal veil material on the cap tends to look almost like felt-like, which is really unique for most species of Amanita that don't have that. So when I see these, I often wonder if it's even an Amanita. We use this section Roanokensis one, which I thought at first was in the Phalloideae group because of it just being blank white. It actually had a very similar smell as well. But this is Amanita overwinklerana, we believe, which is really interesting because this species was described in Japan, and the only records of it are on the Eastern Asian coast. So we're really unsure about this one so far. It seems like the genetic data comes back to this specimen, but we're gonna have to do some more work to actually figure out if this is the same species, right? And then hopefully someone down the road will figure out if it is the same species, is it actually native to Wisconsin or has it been introduced? Just questions that we really don't know.
Okay. Mushrooms or bugs? You decide. Look at this. Oh, snacks. Oh, beautiful insects. Oh, look at this. What the hell? Is that a millipede?
Yeah.
Whoa! If that was crawling on me, you would give me a startle.
I need the centipede. What? Oh, that isn't a centipede.
It's
is it?
it's a deep sea tentacle
Okay.
of a vampire squid. They have like little pokey things on them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, it's cool. It's a cool shop. Oh, look, more yummy mushrooms. All kinds of stuff. Look at this. Fruiting like crazy. T-shirts, dried mushrooms. Look at even more mushrooms. You know you want it. You know you do. Oh man, look at this here. Buy two, get one free. All the morels you could want. There's somebody with like little bird houses and things. This is really cool. Really neat. Ooh,
Kind of fun just to see there. I don't know about you, but I'll take these. Oops, sorry.
Thanks so much for watching today, everyone. As the mushroom season winds down, I'm still out in the woods, so you should see some new content next week.